The only way out is through. And so for me, I remember having a couple of rough years where I had to really go in, face it, face the demons, face the monsters. I know you know.
Mariska Hargitay built her career on exposing secrets. She played Olivia Benson for 26 seasons and helped survivors find their voice. But at 62, she stood at Cannes and revealed the truth she had been running from her entire life. There was the night her mother died and rescuers left her behind in the wreckage. There was the man who raised her but wasn't her real father. And there was something that happened to her in her 30s that she never told anyone. The documentary changed everything. The audience gave her a 4-minute standing ovation. Mariska Magdalena Hargitay entered the world on January 23, 1964, in a quiet hospital in Santa Monica that had been welcoming newborns since 1942, and from the moment she arrived, it felt as if she had stepped into a story already shimmering with fame. She was the youngest child of Jane Mansfield and Mickey Hargitay, a couple who made people turn their heads wherever they went. Cameras followed them, reporters chased them, and Hollywood treated them like a royal pair. While Mariska slept in her hospital blanket, her mother was one of the most photographed women in the country, and her father carried a reputation built from raw strength and charm. Everything around her felt wrapped in bright lights and bold headlines, and as she grew, she would learn that her world had been shaped long before she was old enough to understand any of it. Her name carried its own gentle story, coming from the Hungarian side of her father's family. Mariska was a soft version of Maria, and the little suffix at the end turned it into something affectionate, something warm. Mickey himself had lived a life that felt like a movie. He had been born on January 6, 1926, in Budapest, and fled his home at age 21 in 1947 to avoid being drafted into Soviet service. He landed in America with almost nothing, and by sheer curiosity, walked into a gym one day and lifted 215 pounds over his head, even though he weighed only 180. The owner saw something in him, and soon the world did too. In 1955, he became Mr. Universe, and the title didn't just crown him. It opened doors that pushed bodybuilding toward mainstream attention. Years later, people like Arnold Schwarzenegger would point to men like Mickey as the ones who carved the path. Jane Mansfield, on the other hand, carried a different kind of power. People knew the blonde hair, the laugh, the figure, the way she owned the camera, but almost no one saw the truth beneath that image. Her IQ was recorded as 163, and she spoke 5 languages because she had an appetite for learning that never slowed down. She played violin, played piano, studied Italian in 1963, and dreamed bigger than Hollywood ever understood. Yet the studio machine kept shaping her into Marilyn Monroe's rival. When she signed a 7-year contract with 20th Century Fox in 1956, she stepped into a world hungry for competition. Her films exploded with success for a short burst, but by 1959, the studio dropped her to bring Marilyn back, shifting Jane's trajectory forever. During one of the roughest moments in her marriage to Mickey, Jane began a brief relationship with Nelson Sardelli in 1963. Their timing collided with her reconciliation with Mickey later that same year. When Mariska was born in January 1964, Mickey stood at her side as her father and never stepped back from that role. He raised her as his own, folded her into his family, and kept the truth buried because love meant more than biology. For decades, no one spoke of the affair, and Mariska grew up believing her world was whole. That illusion cracked when she reached her 20s. Someone handed her a photograph of Nelson Sardelli, and she felt something land in her chest with a force she could not explain. The resemblance was immediate. The shock ran through her so quickly that she later said it felt as if the ground disappeared under her feet. When she asked Mickey about it, he refused to discuss anything and insisted he was her father. She never pushed again. The silence stayed intact until his death in 2006 at age 80. She carried that silence for more than 30 years and only revealed the truth in her 2025 documentary, My Mom Jane, which premiered at Cannes on May 17, 2025. Life had already begun twisting long before that revelation. On June 29, 1967, at 2:25 a.m., everything shifted permanently. Jane Mansfield had finished a show in Biloxi and was rushing with her friends and children toward an early morning interview in New Orleans. They rode in a 1966 Buick Electra 225, traveling close to 80 miles per hour. The darkness was thick. The air was heavy. Ahead of them, a mosquito fogging truck filled the highway with white insecticide mist that hung across the road like drifting smoke. Behind that fogger, an 18-wheeler moved slowly. The Buick sped forward and slammed into the trailer with such force that the top of the car was sliced clean off. Jane, her boyfriend Sam Brody, and the young driver Ronnie Harrison died instantly. Even her small dog died beside her. The children in the back seat somehow survived. But in the chaos of flashing lights and rushing responders, a terrible mistake happened. Mickey Jr., age 8, and Zoltan, age 6, were pulled from the wreck first and placed with a blonde woman who had stopped to help. Zoltan woke up about 20 or 30 minutes later and asked where his sister was. Only then did the adults realize Mariska was missing. They raced back to the collapsed car and found the 3-year-old wedged under the passenger seat, injured and silent. Her stepmother, Ellen, later said the only reason Mariska was saved was because Zoltan woke up at the right moment. The insecticide fog played a deadly role that night. The chemical mist had held the air in a thick white cloud near Dead Man's Curve, a section of Highway 90, about 23 miles from New Orleans. It refracted light and erased visibility. Ronnie Harrison could not see the back of the huge truck until it was too late. The crash later led to changes in federal regulations, requiring underride guards on trucks so that cars would never again slide underneath so easily. Mariska carried a scar from that night, a sharp zigzag resting above her right ear. Cameras have caught it for decades, and instead of hiding it, she kept it as a part of her truth. She spoke about it openly in 2025 when her documentary premiered at the Tribeca Festival on June 13th and at Carnegie Hall later that month. The physical wound healed quickly, but the emotional aftermath stayed buried for a long time. She has said many times that she has no memories from before age 5. Her brain locked those years away, including her mother's face and voice. When she looks at old photos, she sees a girl she does not recognize. In October 2024, on The Drew Barrymore Show, she spoke about how childhood trauma takes root inside the body. A month later, at a Hope for Depression event, she explained how everyone around her had been grieving in their own way and how the household rarely had the emotional tools needed to confront what they had lost. After Jane's death, Mickey and his third wife, Ellen, stepped in without hesitation. They took Mariska and her brothers into their Los Angeles home, blending them with 3 half-siblings and creating a family with more love than anyone expected. Mariska quickly began calling Ellen Mom and continued doing so her entire life. In a 2012 interview, she said she had been blessed to receive so much affection after such a horrific tragedy. And she credited Ellen with being the steady presence she needed when she was still too young to understand the shape of her own grief. School became a new world for her. At Marymount High School in Los Angeles, she threw herself into every corner of student life. She swam competitively, joined cheerleading, became part of student government, and acted in school productions. Her classmates eventually elected her senior class president because she had a way of bringing people together. She talked a lot, sometimes too much according to the nuns, but her energy made her unforgettable. Even as the daughter of Hollywood royalty, She built her identity through her own effort, refusing to let her mother's fame carry her. Then came the moment that shifted everything again. During her junior year, a nun named Sister Margaret pulled her aside and told her she had something special inside her. Sister Margaret said she should audition for the school play. Mariska trusted her, stepped onto the stage for the first time, and landed the lead role. The rush she felt changed her. She realized acting connected the pieces of her life in a way nothing else did. Sister Margaret's one suggestion lit the spark that would eventually turn into a celebrated television career. At 18, while attending UCLA, she entered the Miss Beverly Hills USA pageant in 1982 and won the crown. The next year, she placed as fourth runner-up at Miss California USA. The winner, Julie Hayek, later became Miss USA and built a television career of her own. Even without the title, Mariska gained visibility that led to an agent and a handful of small acting roles. She kept studying theater at UCLA, learning lighting, sound, design, and everything behind the scenes. Yet roles kept coming faster than she could balance with classes. By her sophomore year, she realized she had to choose. She left UCLA early and continued her training at the Baron Brown studio for 2 years, determined to sharpen her craft. Her early film roles were rough. In 1985, she appeared in Ghoulies, a cheap horror comedy that somehow made $35 million, despite being produced for a budget somewhere between $200,000 and $5.5 million. She moved on to Welcome to 18 in 1986, then Jocks in 1987, which performed so poorly that it made only $808. The failures piled up, and she quickly understood that film might not offer her the break she needed. Television came next. In 1986, she landed a role on Downtown, a CBS series that premiered on September 27th. She played Jessie Smith, a karate-skilled parolee who teamed up with a detective each week. She stayed for all 13 episodes, but the show was canceled on August 22, 1987. Falcon Crest followed in 1988 with 15 total appearances across 2 seasons, giving her exposure but not the breakthrough she hoped for. Throughout the early 1990s, she took guest roles on shows like Seinfeld, Ellen, 30-something, and Hotel Room. On Seinfeld, she appeared in the pilot on May 20, 1993, playing an actress auditioning for the role of Elaine. It was a bittersweet moment because she had once auditioned for Elaine in real life and didn't get the part. Even so, she kept going, grabbing whatever she could to stay afloat. Before Law & Order Special Victims Unit, she spent time in television movies and landed a recurring role on ER during the 1997-1998 season. She played Cynthia Hooper, a nervous clerk who got caught in a troubled relationship with Dr. Mark Green. That role opened more doors. It made people see her differently, even though she still wasn't a star. Mariska stepped into the world of ER at a moment when everything in her career felt unsteady. She joined the show in its 4th season, which aired from September 25, 1997 to May 14, 1998, and the role placed her right in front of an audience she had been chasing for nearly 15 years. She played Cynthia Hooper, the ESU desk clerk who slowly became part of Dr. Mark Green's life, and Green was played by Anthony Edwards, who already carried enormous weight on the show. That season opened with Ambush, an episode that pulled in 42,71,000 viewers, a number so huge it felt like a tidal wave pushing her forward. Week after week, she appeared on television screens across America, and while she handled emotional scenes involving Green's trauma with real skill, she still felt the subtle ache that came from knowing she was in a recurring role rather than a life-changing lead. Even with all those millions watching, she knew she had not yet broken through the wall that separated steady work from true stardom. Her past made that ache even sharper because the years before ER were full of shows that rose with hope and vanished almost instantly. When she played Dee Dee Edelstein on Can't Hurry Love in 1995 and 1996, the season's ratings were good enough to tie for 24th place among all shows. The average household rating was 11.4, yet CBS still canceled it after only one season. That hit her hard. Then came Prince Street in 1997, a gritty NBC cop drama based on a real secret police unit. It premiered on March 6, 1997, in the 10 p.m. slot usually held by ER, which made the pressure feel unreal. By the second episode, the ratings collapsed, and NBC pulled it. Only 2 episodes aired in total, turning it into one of those stories actors tell later with a shake of the head. When that show disappeared, she felt something inside her sink because she could never build momentum long enough for anyone in power to truly see her. Still, the industry kept handing her small pieces of work, and one of them changed something inside her. In 1995, she appeared in Leaving Las Vegas, playing a prostitute who crosses paths with Ben Sanderson, the alcoholic played by Nicolas Cage. Cage later won the Oscar for Best Actor, and the film itself made $31,983,777 in the United States and $49,800,000 worldwide. Her role was small, yet being even a tiny part of a film that stood so close to the center of awards season made a difference. Critics praised the movie for its raw emotion, and she found herself included in the kind of conversation she had long wanted access to. It proved she could exist inside heavier material, even when her screen time was brief. Then she drifted into another world entirely when Lake Placid arrived in 1999. She played Myra Okubo in this strange mix of horror and comedy that involved a giant crocodile lurking in a Maine lake. The budget floated somewhere between $27,000 to $1,000 and $35,000 to $1,000. And when it opened on July 16, 1999, it made $10,174,145 across 2,095 theaters. When the worldwide total reached $56,870,114, she felt a quiet satisfaction settle in. It was not prestige cinema, but it was something tangible. It showed she could survive anywhere, whether the story was about addiction in Las Vegas or a giant reptile hiding in the shadows. That willingness to do whatever it took mattered because, only a few months later, she stood in a room that would change her entire life. In spring 1999, she auditioned for a new Law & Order spin-off about sex crimes. She was 35 at the time, carrying years of canceled shows and forgotten roles on her shoulders. The final auditions happened at Rockefeller Center, with only 6 people left for the lead roles. Dick Wolf gave her a couple of notes during the audition. She responded with calm confidence, saying that it was good, and something in that moment struck him. She did not know that a comedy coach had told her just 6 months earlier that she would be famous with that face. She simply walked into the room and let everything flow. She left with the role of Olivia Benson, unaware she had just stepped onto the path that would define more than 25 years of her life. When SVU premiered on September 20th, 1999, another moment unfolded that she still describes like fate walking into the room. She was paired with Christopher Maloney during the final round of auditions. He walked in, she looked at him, and something clicked. She later said that she sized him up instantly and knew he was the guy. Dick Wolf felt the same spark and cast them both. Before filming even began, she trained to become a certified rape crisis advocate so she could bring truth to the character. Maloney beat out actors like John Slattery for his role, and within weeks, the two of them had become one of the most natural partnerships television had ever produced. Years passed, and everything built into something no one could have predicted. When season 21 premiered in September 2019, her character broke every record for a primetime live-action role. She surpassed James Arness from Gunsmoke and Kelsey Grammer as Frasier Crane. By January 2026, she had appeared in more than 540 episodes across 26 seasons. The 2019-2020 season alone reached 6,500,000 viewers with live broadcasts and 11,900,000 with delayed viewing. The 2018-2019 season recorded more than 150,000 minutes viewed across networks. The numbers kept climbing, and so did her salary. During the early seasons, she earned around $375,000 to $385,000 per episode. As the years went by, she reached $500,000 per episode, earning around $11,000 to $15,000 annually, and her status shifted from working actress to television royalty. Everything became even more real on August 27, 2006, when she stood on stage at the Emmys and heard her name called for Outstanding Lead Actress in a drama series. She held the statue and mentioned her son August in her speech, saying she never imagined the month would end like that. Competing against actors like Kira Sedgwick, Gina Davis, Frances Conroy, and Allison Janney made the win feel even more powerful. She had already been nominated twice before, and after the win, she went on to earn 4 more nominations for the same role. She never won a SAG award despite 6 nominations, but the Emmy stood like a small light that confirmed everything she had poured into the show. Then came the Golden Globe on January 16, 2005. She thanked everyone she could think of and nearly shook through the speech from emotion. She had competed against giants like Edie Falco and Jennifer Garner, yet the award landed in her hands. More honors followed. 4 Gracie Allen Awards, 2 People's Choice Awards, multiple nominations stretching into 2022 and 2024. Each trophy brought more proof that Olivia Benson had become more than a character. She had become a symbol of strength, empathy, and survival. By March 27, 2019, NBC renewed SVU for season 21, officially breaking Gunsmoke's 44-year record. Gunsmoke had ended in 1975 with 635 episodes, and its title as longest-running primetime drama had stood untouched for decades. When SVU passed that line, Dick Wolf called the moment both heartbreaking and satisfying because the original Law and Order had reached the edge of breaking the record before being canceled. NBC renewed SVU for seasons 22, 23, and 24 all at once in February 2020. By the time SVU reached its 26th season in 2024, it had crossed 560 episodes, and Mariska had begun directing and producing while still playing Benson. Money battles came along the way, and she handled them with the same quiet determination that carried her through early cancellations. Between 1999 and 2009, her salary held steady between $375,000 and $385,000 per episode. When her contract expired in June 2009, NBC pushed forward with production for season 11 before she and Maloney had signed anything. She recognized her value. Fans recognized it too. She held her ground and secured a raise that brought her to around $400,000 per episode for seasons 11 and 12. That moment proved she understood her worth as clearly as she understood her character. After 5 seasons of playing Olivia Benson, something unexpected began happening in Mariska Hargitay's real life. People started stopping her in grocery stores, at airports, on sidewalks. Survivors of sexual assault looked at her like she was not an actress, but a real detective, someone who could help them right now. They told her their stories with shaking voices. Some asked what to do next. Others just cried. These moments followed her everywhere, and each one stayed with her longer than the last. She realized she could not simply smile, offer comfort, and walk away. Something deeper was being asked of her. So in 2004, she created the Joyful Heart Foundation, driven by a need to change how society responds to sexual assault, domestic violence, and child abuse. The name came from a memory that had lived inside her since she was 15. A moment off the coast of Hawaii when a pod of dolphins surrounded her while she swam, filling her with a sense of peace and healing she never forgot. Years later, in 2024, she shared in a People essay that she herself had been raped by a friend in her 30s, writing that she was building joyful heart on the outside so she could do the work on the inside. Instead of stopping at awareness, Mariska took a step few celebrities ever take. As her television fame grew, she quietly enrolled in a 40-hour volunteer training program at Mount Sinai Hospital through its Sexual Assault and Violence Intervention Program. She sat in classrooms like everyone else. She studied trauma psychology, survivor communication, and crisis response. She earned certification as a rape crisis counselor by completing the full program, not as a symbol, but as a working volunteer. She later explained that she could not stop thinking about how to merge the investigative mind of Olivia Benson with the reality of how survivors needed to be met in real life. The training changed her. It gave her real tools. It gave her credibility. More importantly, it gave her understanding of the darkness survivors carry and the patience healing requires. Then in 2009, she learned something that shook her to the core. Across the United States, hundreds of thousands of rape kits were sitting untested in police storage rooms, some untouched for decades. These kits held DNA, they held answers, they held justice. Yet they were ignored, leaving survivors without closure and allowing repeat offenders to keep hurting others. The failure was not accidental. It was systemic. Joyful Heart made this crisis its top priority and launched the End the Backlog initiative in 2010. Through years of research and state-by-state investigations, the foundation identified more than 225,000 untested rape kits nationwide. Even in 2022, at least 25,000 kits remained untested across just 30 reporting states, meaning the real number was likely much higher. Detroit alone uncovered over 11,000 abandoned kits sitting in a warehouse. What Mariska saw was not paperwork. It was people being erased. She did not stop at outrage. She went to Congress. She testified twice, laying out how this failure allowed serial rapists to operate freely for years. Her work helped lead to the creation of the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative in 2014, a Department of Justice grant program designed to eliminate the backlog. By 2017, Congress had awarded $131,000 in grants to 26 states. That funding led to the testing and inventory of more than 45,000 kits. In Detroit, testing the 11,000 abandoned kits took 13 years, but solved over 5,000 cases and identified 22 serial rapists. Mariska worked closely with prosecutor Kim Worthy, using every ounce of influence she had, attending breakfasts, posing for photos, and making sure reform bills moved quickly through Michigan's legislature. In 2018, she took the story to the screen. She executive produced the HBO documentary I Am Evidence, which followed 4 survivors in Cleveland, Detroit, and Los Angeles as they traced what happened to their rape kits after years of silence. Directed by Trish Adelsick and Geeta Ganbir, the film showed how survivors became boxes on shelves, their names written on evidence no one bothered to open. Some kits had been ignored for more than 10 years. The documentary struck a nerve. In 2019, it earned Mariska an Emmy Award for Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special and brought national attention to a crisis many Americans had never heard about. She said all these women needed was to be believed, respected, and heard. The impact was immediate, with departments across the country re-examining their own systems. While she was reshaping systems, her personal life was also taking root. On August 28, 2004, Mariska married actor Peter Herman in a small chapel in Santa Barbara, surrounded by about 200 friends and family. They had met in 2001, when Peter Guest starred on Law and Order SVU as defense attorney Trevor Langan. Their first date was not dinner or drinks, but a church service. Mariska began sobbing during it. Peter thought she was moved by the sermon. Later, she admitted the truth. It felt like a lightning bolt. She knew he was the one. After 3 years together, they married, beginning a partnership that would stretch beyond 21 years. Motherhood came next. On June 28, 2006, at age 42, Mariska gave birth to her son, August Miklos Friedrich Hermann. The name carried generations of meaning. August had been used in Peter's family for over 200 years. Miklos honored Mariska's late father. Friedrich honored Peter's grandfather. Becoming a mother later in life changed how she saw everything. She said every day felt deeper, richer, and more sacred. That same year, she won an Emmy Award and joked during her speech that when she named her son August, she had no idea the month would end like that. In April 2011, their family grew through adoption when they welcomed their daughter, Amaya Josephine Hermann. The journey was painful and beautiful at once. Amaya's birth mother had considered abortion before choosing adoption. Then she hesitated, torn between love and reality. For days, the decision hung in the air. In the end, she made the most selfless choice she could. When Mariska met Amaya, she held her, then hugged the birth mother for a long time. She later said it was one of the most meaningful moments of her life. Just 6 months later, in October 2011, they adopted again, welcoming Andrew Nicholas Hargitay Hermann. The timing was shocking even to them. After a devastating failed adoption earlier, Andrew's arrival felt miraculous. Within half a year, their family grew from 3 to 5. Not long before that chapter of joy, her body had nearly failed her. In October 2008, while filming SVU and insisting on doing her own stunts as she had for 10 years, she landed wrong during a chase scene. She felt something was off, but pushed through it. For 3 months, she ignored the pain. On January 1, 2009, while walking on the beach, sharp pain hit her chest. An X-ray revealed her right lung was 50% collapsed. She panicked. Surgery followed when initial procedures failed. Then on March 3, 2009, just after returning to work, her lung collapsed again, a complication that occurs in only 1 out of 1,000 cases. The fear was deeper this time. Both her mother, Jane Mansfield, and her grandfather had died at age 34. She feared the same fate. After further surgery, she recovered and returned to set on March 23, 2009, changed forever. She said she was back to herself, but no longer felt the need to take unnecessary risks. That understanding of truth and survival came full circle in May 2025. At 62 years old, Mariska stood at the Cannes Film Festival to premiere her HBO documentary, My Mom Jane. The film debuted on May 17, 2025, earning a 4-minute standing ovation. For the first time, she revealed publicly that Mickey Hargitay, the man who raised her, was not her biological father. Her biological father was Nelson Sardelli, a Brazilian-Italian singer who had an affair with her mother in 1963. The documentary aired on HBO and HBO Max on June 27, 2025, opening her story to the world. The truth had found her decades earlier. At 20, a Jane Mansfield fan club president showed her a photo of Nelson Sardelli. The moment she saw it, something inside her clicked. She confronted Mickey, who denied it fiercely and refused to discuss it again. He took that denial to his grave in 2006. At 30, Mariska secretly went to Atlantic City and introduced herself to Nelson after one of his shows. He cried and told her he had been waiting 30 years. She shut him down, cold and defensive, driven by loyalty, fear, and guilt. For 30 years, she carried the truth alone, even introducing her biological half-sisters as family friends. When she finally shared the documentary with them, they cried together. The secret was gone. The film also revealed a haunting detail from June 29, 1967. After Jane Mansfield's fatal crash, rescuers pulled Mariska's brothers from the wreckage, but missed 3-year-old Mariska, trapped beneath a seat. Only when her brother asked where she was, did they realize she had been left behind. She was rushed to the hospital with a head injury that left a permanent scar. Mariska remembers none of it, but the story lives on, stitched through every chapter of her life, connecting survival, truth, and the long road to healing.